Hey guys, this is an episode from our second day in Oklahoma City. And this was a pretty serious day, so this video is going to be more serious than a lot of our other ones. But we want to take you guys along with us as we kind of dive into an issue that we didn't know a lot about before this day.
Yeah, I think some of our videos are definitely pretty silly, and that's what we're experiencing that day, but it's cool to use our platform for when we experience more serious things, like incarceration. And this video is going to dive in to some issues within that. And so this video is not politically charged in any way. This is just an issue of humanity, really. And it was very cool for us to experience it, and we're excited to kind of show you what this day was like for us.
We're just three guys that are authorities on nothing. So we went into this day with an open mind. I hope you watch the video with an open mind.
So we started our day off with a tour of the Oklahoma County Jail, and then we got to see a very different kind of program called Remerge. So the people that kind of organized this whole thing are my brother Blake Gatewood and a good friend of ours, Adam Luck.
My name is Adam Luck. I am the CEO of City Care. City Care has been around in Oklahoma City for 23 years, and we provide transitional permanent housing for the homeless. And we operate in the city's day shelters. That to me is what hope actually looks like. That's what change actually looks like, is programs like Remerge, which is an alternative to incarceration program in Oklahoma. So it's been around for 6 years. They've had 106 women go through this program. Later this month we'll have a graduation. They have 2 graduations a year. So I went to the graduation in March, and they were graduating 15 women. The whole program cost $364,000 for all 15 of those women. Now contrast that with what would have happened if they'd gone into state custody. So if we had put them in prison, I know what their experience would have been like in prison because I've been to most of the prisons in the state. So our prisons are, as of last month, are at 114% capacity. So we don't have any room for programs. We don't really have any room for treatment. We don't really have the money to staff counseling positions. Our correctional officer positions are at 68% capacity because they're underpaid, and it's a hard job. And it would have cost the state $1.5 million just to put them in prison. So we'll meet with some graduates and participants this afternoon, and you'll get to hear their story. You'll get to hear them talk about the life that they were living, what has happened in Remerge, and what their life looks like today.
My parents actually met in AA, so I was kind of like, predispositioned to be an addict and an alcoholic. And my childhood was very chaotic. My mom and dad both ended up drinking again, and it was a really abusive, toxic home. We left my dad when I was about 8 years old, and things were looking up. And then when I was 12, I started getting kidney stones. And so what do they give you for kidney stones? They give you Lortabs. So that was kind of when my addiction started. And then when my mom was diagnosed with cancer when I was 16, she had all those pain pills, and so I would just take a lot of them. I can't even count how many times I overdosed. And my mom was battling stage 4 cancer, and she's having to sit here and worry about how many pills I'm stealing from her, and if she's gonna have enough medicine just to sit there and die. So that was really, really hard for me to forgive myself. But I know my mom understood because she was an addict too. But when she passed away, I started doing heroin, and after that I didn't have a support system, so it was pretty much a wrap, I didn't have anyone to love me, so I seeked love through strangers, and it was just the most unhealthy thing a vulnerable girl could do. And then getting pregnant throughout all of that. If it wasn't for Remerge, I wouldn't have a home, and my babies wouldn't have a mom. But I'm just so thankful for my life today, because I thought that I was a lost cause, but we're not. And Remerge fights for us so much. Prison wouldn't have done a thing for me or anything for my kids. And if I needed diapers, Remerge would get me diapers. Luckily I can buy my own diapers, but it's just so nice knowing that they're always there for us no matter what. And even when we fail and make wrong choices, they welcome us back with open arms, and they love us even harder because they get it. We're not going to come into this program and be perfect and never fail a UA or always be honest about who we're with and what we're doing. You know, we're addicts and we came from this life, and we're not going to change overnight, and they understand that and they love us. I'm just super happy with where I am now.
I'm Roxana, and I'm 35. I have 3 kids. I have a 15-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 12-year-old. I grew up, I grew up with just my mom being, she was a drug addict. She was bar hopping is what I call it, but she had a different man every day, very abusive. Just that lifestyle. My lifestyle, when I was playing like imaginary stuff, I would play Hangover because that's all I knew. So, So just having Remerge to be that people I never had is like really special for me, because I wouldn't have this chance had I not got in trouble. And so it's almost like a miracle. Today I got people who genuinely care if my kids are okay or if we're feeling okay. And I never had a job. I mean, I worked for a little bit, but today I have a job. I go to school and I do program, and I just feel like when I'm just feeling so much better. I've had a really bad childhood, but it really helped me to be strong for who I am today. I know that everything that I went through, I can help somebody else, and that's just what my goal is, to help other girls that they don't have to live like that.
I'm Maggie. I'm 21, phase 4, about to graduate in 2.5 weeks. I've got 3 children. They're 1, 2, and 3. I had my 1-year-old the day after I entered Remerge. I lived with my grandparents until I was 13. My parents were kind of super focused on my brother, who's 2 years younger, because he like played football and basketball and baseball, and like that's super cool. But I was nerdy, and I was in band and choir, and I was like spelling bee champion. So, you know, I just didn't fit in. But I moved home when I was 13, and things were pretty good. And then like, my mom has a gambling problem, so she was never really around. So after her and my dad separated and we moved into our own place with her boyfriend, I kind of just like started running the streets and like doing whatever I wanted, and that's when I got involved with like Xanax and pain pills, and it just like went really downhill from there. But pretty normal growing up. I lived in Choctaw for most of my life and did really good in school, but it can change really fast. It's really scary thinking that you're going to have like your child in prison, because you know like DHS is going to come take them. Sorry, I don't want to cry. But no, it's super emotional. But since coming into Remerge, I got my GED last July. I'm starting my 3rd semester of college next Monday for cardiovascular sonography. And what's your GPA? Oh yeah, I have a 4.0 GPA.
Don't leave that part out.
No, but things have been super great. Like, I know not to get into a relationship like I was in before. I spent almost 3 years with a guy who like beat the crap out of me daily if I didn't do what he wanted me to do. But no, it's super life-changing, and I'm super grateful. Like, after I dropped out of high school and everything, I had like scholarship offers from like a ton of different universities, and I was like, I'm never gonna get to do anything with my life. And now I'm like exploring the idea of becoming an anesthesiologist or an attorney, and like I know that I'm capable of doing all that today, and my kids are gonna my kids can be proud of me for doing something better with my life than where I was going.
How many years in prison did you have?
Me?
Yeah.
I think 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maggie, what about you?
I was looking at 20 plus.
I had 7.
I think the fundamental question you have to answer is like, what is a prison for? Is a prison for the people who are most dangerous and need to be kept from society, or is a prison for anyone who commits what we have collectively agreed is a crime? And empirically, we know that if you put a low-risk person, so someone who's committed like a low-level property crime or used drugs, if you put them in prison, they're going to come out at a high risk. And then just imagine, like, what does it look like when your mom and dad have both been to prison?
Yeah.
And then multiply that over 1, 2, 3 generations. So over the last 30 years of criminalizing addiction and having these like absurd thresholds for what we determine as a crime and what's not. Like multiply that over generations, and now you get what we have today, which is generational cycles of incarceration, addiction, abuse. We have one of the highest foster care rates in the country. Just imagine, like, you come out of prison, you got a felony conviction, right? So you don't have a driver's license, you got to check a box when you apply for a job. So put yourself in the position of a small business owner. You've got 10 applicants, and 2 of them have checked a box that they're a convicted felon. Like, they're not going to make the cut. And the idea that most of us have is that when somebody goes to prison, their behavior is addressed, whatever they did is corrected, and they come out and they have another shot. And the reality is that you just don't. You just don't have a shot when you get out of prison. If anything, the chances of the only thing we prepare people to do in Oklahoma prisons is to come back. That's it. We're just getting you ready to come back the next time.
Being in prison only taught me to be a better criminal, taught me to where to get more connections, more people, and more crime. All these private prisons, they're getting paid for having more inmates, and so they're winning and we're losing.
Everyone that I did drugs with has more than likely been to prison. And out of everyone I know who's been to prison, excluding the girls in Remerge, I can think of one who's doing good for herself. All of the others are still lost.
Said prison is like not about rehabilitation whatsoever, and I know that for me, like this is all about, I think since being in Remerge, I've completed like 20 different groups to help me change my thinking and the way that I view myself and the world around me. And that's the biggest thing, is like something has to change. Like you learn how to be a better criminal in prison, and you learn how to get around the system even more, because I know that like just a week after I got out of prison, I was like, well, we can work it this way and we can do this to get around it. And today I don't think like that. I'm like, I'm just gonna be on the straight and narrow, because I'm gonna end back up in prison if I like try to work the system. I don't want to work the system anymore. I want to do what's right, because that's what feels good.
I mean, statistically speaking, most people don't stand a chance. I mean, if I didn't get Remerged, I wouldn't have my kids and I wouldn't have a job. So, like, it's really sad to say, but there's just not the programs out there that love them the way that they need to be loved. So, it's definitely a big barrier that the state needs to address.
So the states that are doing this differently, so like take Texas for example. 15 years ago they passed a series of reforms. They were looking at, they were needing 2 more prisons, so they had allocated $500 million to build new prisons. Instead of that, they took half of that and they invested $241 million in alternative to incarceration programs. So fast forward to today, they've closed 8 state prisons. Actually closing. We're building new ones, and they've closed 8 state prisons over the last 15 years. They've cut their juvenile population by 52%, and they've saved over $3 billion in the last 15 years. Last year, they had their lowest violent crime rate and property crime rate they've had since 1968. So they've proven, right? Like, there are ways to divert people from prison that cost less money and provide better outcomes. The outcomes we all want, which is people prepared to re-enter society and our neighborhoods being safe. That's happened in 27 other states across the country. That's kind of the conclusion that states are starting to come to, is that there's a better way to do it that costs less money and provides better outcomes.
So what's preventing these other 23 states from pursuing those programs?
Politics, mostly.
And money?
And money, yeah. So Texas had the money, right? I mean, Oklahoma doesn't have $241 million. Part of the reason Oklahoma doesn't have that money is because we don't want to raise taxes. States that have implemented these reforms successfully have paired innovation with resources. So I think if Oklahoma had people who their incentives were to stand up and exercise a position of leadership, which I would define as mobilizing a group of people to face a difficult problem. If that were their incentive and they were actually leading people and saying, we've got to think about this differently and do something different, along with resources to actually fund those solutions, then I think it could look really different. My ultimate goal is for people really to come under the weight of what it looks like to either be actively working to end these systems of injustice and oppression and marginalization, or participating in perpetuating them. Because ultimately I think when people come under that weight and realize that there's no neutral ground, right? Like, you're either working to end them or you're perpetuating them. I think when people come under that weight, that's when things change.
So as Adam was saying, the conditions for incarcerated individuals are really, really poor. And on our tour of the Oklahoma County Jail on this day, we got to witness those facilities firsthand and see what day-to-day life looks like for a prisoner in Oklahoma.
It was, without being dramatic at all, like it was life-changing seeing what we saw. We weren't able to film in there, but it was pretty heartbreaking seeing, it's easy to, I think, for us, for anyone, to just think about, like, you do wrong, you go to jail, and just not think about what it's like to be a prisoner. But once you've made eye contact with someone in a jail cell like that, and seeing how much room they have, and seeing that there's 3 people in this tiny little cage that's meant for 2, and seeing that they don't have yard time at all at this jail, they only get out of their cell 4 hours a week. It just doesn't seem like that is helping anything. We learned that 60% of criminals will come into that jail with mental health issues, and after seeing just kind of how that jail looks and how they're treated and what their life looks like in there, like, legitimately cannot imagine coming out of jail without having a mental health issue.
Yeah, it was dehumanizing just to walk through. It was like touring a tomb. This facility has no funding, and so there's black mold growing in the cells, and their only solution is to paint over it. It's like these are the people that we've lost hope in, and we're putting them here so they can lose it for themselves. We don't have the answers, but we don't want to continue to paint over black mold.
I know for each of us, and hopefully you out there, it was just extremely eye-opening, for one, to know that programs like Remerge are out there, and 2, to see just how good they're doing and how good they are for people who need help like that. Programs like Remerge are the future.
As Americans, it's our responsibility to stand up for our brothers and sisters that are being caught in this cycle. Like Adam said, we're either perpetuating this problem or actively fighting against it. And I think if we really believe in these principles that we talk about of freedom and justice for all, then we can't just wait around any longer, because this has been happening for too many years. So I think the best way to wrap this up is to talk about what we can do. And that really just comes down to our ability to vote and our ability to educate ourselves and inform others about what we know. Thank you guys so much for watching this video and coming along with us as we experience something that was both heartbreaking and very encouraging. Our hope is that you guys would tell your friends about this, share this video, and get the word out about what is happening in our prisons in the United States.